welcome back. Of course, to find out more about the day that's being celebrated today, Cinco de Mayo, we have with us the Mexican ambassador to Belize, Ambassador Carlos Quesnel. Good morning and welcome. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation.
That's right. It's the big day, the 5th of the 5th, Cinco de Mayo. And everybody has been wondering, where did we get this? Why Cinco de Mayo? Why not 9 de Abril? You know? So
it is a very important day for Mexicans. And we know what people have seen in television as how it's celebrated. It's not the same for Mexico. So let's jump back into the history and find out about the origins of Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, well, thank you very much again. Cinco de Mayo is a very important day for the history of Mexico. As you know, we got our independence in 1821, and then we started having some internal problems and wars until we got to the war against the U.S. where we lost some territory. And after that, we had a new constitution in 1857, and we started to have some struggles between two political parties, the conservatives and liberals. So we were in a sort of a civil war. And at that moment, the French government that was ruled by Napoleon III, he saw the opportunity to extend the French Empire. So he invited Spain and the UK to be part of an expedition to invade and to conquer Mexico. But thanks God, Spain and the UK didn't participate because they realized that the original claim was that France wanted to get some money back. President Juarez did decree a suspension of paying the external debt, and that was the reason why France and the other countries wanted to go to Mexico. But when Spain and the UK realized that France wanted to take Mexico over under its empire, they withdrew of this coalition. So France went by its own, and the French thought that Mexico was too weak, and they arrived with 6,000 men to Veracruz. They disembarked in Veracruz and they went over to Mexico City. But on the way, they got a surprise. Mexican troops under the lead of General Ignacio Zaragoza, they had a battle outside Puebla, which is a city some 120 kilometers far from Mexico City, in two forts in the Guadalupe and Loreto, and they fought the French. They were outnumbered by the French, so it looked like it was going to be a very easy war for the French. But after a 3 hours battle, and you know, Mexicans were inferior on arms, but 1,000 French were killed, and some 100 Mexicans were killed, and the remaining French did withdraw from that battle. So that was a very important victory for the Mexican army, and it was as a way to show that small army, and at that time a weak country that still was struggling for establishing the independence and its sovereignty, Mexico could finally won this war against the most powerful army of the war at that moment. So every Mexican was very proud. And we are still very proud, and that's why we celebrate Cinco de Mayo and Cinco de Mayo.
And you know, it's such a great story. I think one, for the sheer size difference of the armies, as you pointed out, and the arsenal that was available to the French versus the Mexicans. You know, when we think, there's some great images there. So we have some depictions, I should say, of the Cinco de Mayo battle in Puebla. Now, how much of this history is a part of the Mexican education process? How much do the kids grow up knowing and understanding why this day is so significant as the day Mexico conquered a supergiant at that time, and really had a very significant effect in terms of the French's roles in conquering within this region after that.
Well, it's a very important day for Mexicans,
Yeah.
and certainly for students. We are taught at the school Cinco de Mayo to be one of the most important days in our history, since, as I said before, this helped the Mexican people, the Mexican nation, to become a real nation. We were not united, we were fighting each other, but when we faced the invasion of the French, in that case, we united as people, and we could face this threat to the Mexican, new Mexican nation.
Yeah.
So today we are celebrating. The schools are closed, but during the week many celebrations have been done in the schools, and we do civic ceremonies all over Mexico. And I would say it's a day that marked the history in a very, very important way in all Mexicans. We do currently celebrate Cinco de Mayo, especially in Puebla, since this occurred in Puebla. And in Puebla, we have a very huge ceremony that is presided by the President of Mexico. President of Mexico will be there today. And we do a parade, a civic military parade, and especially, and this is important to mention because everybody wants to go to Puebla today, there will be an enactment of the historical events. So it's very interesting to see how we do celebrate today Cinco de Mayo. But it's also important to say that Cinco de Mayo, it's a party, but it's not a huge party in Mexico. Is rather a civic.
And I was going to get to that, because what really marks Cinco de Mayo in Mexico is the military parade and some of the other traditional moments within it. So tell us what people, if somebody was in Mexico City, for example, what would they see as the commemoration of this particular day?
Well, it's a day where we as Mexicans feel very proud of the achievement of the Mexican Army. And a day that is paramount for the history of Mexico, in the sense that it showed that Mexico at that time, even though we were still a weak country, we could face this big empire, this big army, and we are very proud. But other than that, we don't make a big parties. We just do these civic ceremonies, and we follow what is going on in Puebla. We feel very proud to see our military doing the parade.
Yeah,
and,
it's a military parade.
Yeah, and again, we feel very proud of that day today.
You know, for a lot of us, especially here in Belize, we've been seeing different things when it comes to the Cinco de Mayo, and people grew up knowing that Cinco de Mayo is a big party. I am so glad that I could learn the history. I could hear about the history of Cinco de Mayo and what occurred. Where is it celebrated, like, deeply, whereby it's a party? It's about taking some drinks, getting some food. Where is it celebrated?
Well, certainly all Mexicans go on party. We like parties, and doesn't matter what. And this is a very special day for Mexicans. So we will make certainly we do in every house a toast, and in the schools they celebrate. Not today because they are closed, the schools, but in other days. And at the government level we do civic ceremonies. But if you want a real party on Cinco de Mayo, you have to go to the United States. Where this is the real big party, since they adopted this day as a party day. And certainly the Battle of Cinco de Mayo, where a small army did a big army,
strong army at the time,
inspired the Americans that at the time were struggling themselves with the Civil War. So that was an example that the weak armies could conquer the big armies. And since that time, Americans also used to celebrate Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think what has happened with the evolution of the celebration within the United States especially, it's become kind of just a celebration of Mexican culture in general, with the food and the drinks. And we understand that you were even able to participate in part of the celebration at the White House a few years ago. Tell us about that.
Well, certainly there are some misconceptions that the Mexican Cinco de Mayo is the Mexican Independence Day, especially in the United States, which is wrong. It's not. It's September 16th. There is a misconception. It's a big party in Mexico. It's not either, but in the U.S. They have big parties, and especially in the 80s. They started with the Chicano movement using the Cinco de Mayo also as a day to show the importance of the Mexican community in the United States. And if I recall correctly, it was in the late 80s, in 89, where former President George Bush started to do party the Cinco de Mayo at the White House. So since then, every day, every year, they do a party, a big party there, and they invite the Mexican ambassador, people from the embassy, and also important leaders from the Mexican American community. So I understand that last year there was a party of 500 people there with the group Mana from Guadalajara playing there with very nice parties. And the U.S. government also expresses that this day, Cinco de Mayo, is a very important day to show the contribution of the Mexicans, or Mexican Americans, and in general of the Hispanic community to the importance to the economy, to trade, to the culture. We share a common values and principles. So it's a way to celebrate, as the Irish do celebrate their St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
So it has become a day, Hispanic Day, and the way how America, the U.S., celebrate the Mexican and the Hispanic community in the U.S.
So what will be, how will it be celebrated with the Mexican embassy here in Belize?
Well, we are certainly celebrating. We are doing a civic celebration tonight, and we will be very happy maybe to have a margarita, a tequila.
There must be tequila. We saw that video up of how much tequila, how many margaritas will be consumed in the United States, the amount of avocados and guacamole that will be consumed. It really is fantastic, I think. In the simple fact that people get to understand more about the culture and respect the culture. So it is something I think that people have come to look forward to. I wanted to ask one more question in terms of traditions built into the celebrations within Mexico. Isn't this the time when they do the special call, the response back and forth with the people?
It is not. There are many different celebrations all over the country, but the main celebration is in Puebla, where people go out in the streets and they dance and they dress as they enact the events also in the city. And officially, the army, they do a very professional enactment of the event. That's what it happens in Puebla, mainly in Puebla, also in other parts of the country, but it's mainly in Puebla where things are happening today.
Okay.
So Ambassador, putting you on the spot. If you were in Mexico right now, would you be in Puebla?
I would be in Puebla, certainly, no questions. Yes, because that's where the party is taking place, and where people really feel the pride of being a Poblano. Remember, we are celebrating La Batalla de Puebla. We are celebrating Ignacio Zaragoza, the great general he was, and especially we are celebrating that the Mexican at that time, when Mexico was still struggling for its independence, its sovereignty as a sovereign nation, we could have this victory to the French, and that gives us a certain pride of our military, and especially of the unity of the country. When you can be struggling each other in the country, but when there is a threat of a foreign invasion, you are just one nation, and that was what happened in Mexico. We were united, all Mexicans, and we could face this threat, this external threat.
And there we have some videos of what the reenactment looks like. So I'm sure, I think everybody loves a story where the underdog is the one who conquers, and this is exactly what happened. And I think especially when you point out the internal aspect where you were divided but came together, smaller than the other troops, and still prevailed. So it is definitely worth the celebration that you guys have, and we're so grateful that you stopped in to remind us of the historical content of Cinco de Mayo as well. Anything else you'd like to share with us before we close off this segment?
Well, I know that Belize and Mexico, we share a lot of values and principles, so you have a better understanding of Cinco de Mayo. And I'm very happy that people are also happy with the Cinco de Mayo and also keen to celebrate Cinco de Mayo. And we will also not only celebrate in Cinco de Mayo the Batalla de Puebla, but also the Mexico-Belize relationship specialists that, as you know, we are celebrating 30 years of diplomatic relations and friendship between both countries.
That's right.
So this day could serve here in Belize as a day of celebrating the Mexican-Belize.
And in fact, you guys have brought in a special band for the celebration.
Oh, certainly. We did bring something very special, something that is not very usual. We are bringing a Huasteco group. It's called the
Los Avispones
Huastecos Hornets, and they come from the Huasteca, which is a region in Mexico located along the Gulf of Mexico area. This comes from some parts of Tamaulipas, Veracruz, Puebla, San Luis Potosí, Guanajuato. So we are very happy to have them here, and they do very nice music. Huasteco music is a very happy music, and it's one of the 8 music ways in Mexico that we recognize, and we are very proud to have them here.
How did you manage to persuade him to come to Belize? I mean, it's partying.
Well, it was not very difficult when we told them to come to Belize. Everybody wants to come to Belize. Everybody knows that it's a wonderful country, and they are really very happy to be here. They are also participating tonight at the Caché Festival in Benque Viejo. So they will be very active today, and we start the party, the Cinco de Mayo party, this morning here with you. We will be finishing tonight in Benque. So we invite you to go to Benque and to listen to this very nice Huasteca music.
And we get to have a preview as well, because they're going to be here in studio in our next segment. Ambassador, we're so grateful for you to stop in.
Always nice.
And have this conversation with us. And I think definitely a day that Mexico should feel proud for what they were able to accomplish on Cinco de Mayo.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation, and enjoy Cinco de Mayo.
All right.
All right.
We're going to go ahead and take a break.
That's right. We're going to take a break, but when we come back, it's going to be a very interesting segment as Los Avispones Huastecos will be in the studio providing to us that Cinco de Mayo flavor. That's when we come back.